Hey everybody, welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to do my October reading wrap up. October was an amazing reading month. I finished 11 books, which I'm very pleased about. I really had a lot of fun reading in the past couple of weeks. I read some amazing books. I also read some books that were a bit disappointing. It's just overall it has been a great reading month for me. So because I have 11 books to talk about, let's just get started. Because this video is probably going to be long enough as it is. And yeah, just let me tell you all about the books that I read in October. The first book that I finished in October is Only Human by Sylvain Neuvel. This is the third and final book in the Devious Files trilogy, and that is a sci-fi series that features around a woman named Rose Franklin who discovers a very mysterious, huge hand that seems to be sort of like a robot hand, and then she gets involved in a project surrounding this robot hand, and maybe there are also other parts. And yeah, as I said, this is the third and final book. I read Sleeping Giants during the summer, and I read Only Human, which is the second book, last month. I really loved the first two books, and I was a bit scared to read the third one because a lot of people said that it was a bit disappointing. And in the end, I sort of agree with that. It is a bit disappointing, but I also did enjoy it. It's just, yeah, it's hard to explain because I think my rating would be that the second book is the best because the second one was like mind-blowing. That one was so amazing, like definitely one of my new all-time favorites. And then after that I liked the first book the best, and then the third book is definitely the least of the series. And the thing is, it's sort of hard to explain why, I don't know. It's just a bit more stretched out, the third book. It's a bit more boring, it's a bit less intense. The characters are still amazing because that doesn't really change, and I really love the format because this series is told in the format of document files. That's also why it's called the Devious Files. And the third book, like, the writing was still amazing. As I said, the characters were still amazing, but it was just lacking a certain something, and it's hard to really point out what that is, but it just wasn't as amazing as the first two books, in my opinion. It's still really good, like it's still a very enjoyable book. I had a good time reading it. It's not bad by any means. But in the end I gave Only Human 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then next I picked up Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is a YA detective novel, and it follows a girl named Stevie who goes to the prestigious Ellingham Academy. This is a very grand school, and it's also famous because at the founding of the school, the Ellingham family was kidnapped, and Stevie, who really likes detective stuff in general, wants to be the one to solve the Ellingham kidnapping. So Truly Devious is a very popular young adult book. A lot of people really love it, and for me personally it was quite a weird experience. So the first, I think, half of the book I really enjoyed. I actually enjoyed way more than I thought I would, because I thought the premise was very promising. I loved the sort of setup, and I loved the atmosphere at Ellingham Academy, and I do love a good mystery, to read about. But then after the first half I started to like it a lot less because I think this book is way too long, or like way too dragged out. It's not necessarily a very long book, but this book is stretched out so much and it's so unnecessary. This book did not need to be as long as it was, and I think that's definitely a negative point for me. I don't mind when a book is slow or a bit boring, but I think it does need to have a purpose, and in this case it didn't really have a purpose. It wasn't to achieve world building, it wasn't to build up characters, because that's also something that I don't really like that much. I think the characters are not as fleshed out as they could have been. So yeah, with Truly Devious I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars because I really enjoyed the first half, but then the second half I got bored. And I just, I don't know, I wasn't really a big fan of that. But because I did want some answers on like the mystery questions, I did pick up the second book, which is The Vanishing Star. I listened to this one on audiobook because I did not want to buy another physical copy. And The Vanishing Star, like, was not that good. With Truly Devious I was disappointed, but it wasn't the worst book ever. The Vanishing Star is also not the worst book ever, but it was definitely very disappointing. Like, it was not a good book at all, in my opinion. I think it took the flaws from the first book and sort of magnified them somehow. Again, this book dragged out so much. Like, the first book and the second book could have been easily one book. Like, this is such a stretch out to make it sort of a series. Maybe it could have even been like a single book. Like, this book series, it did not need to be a series. And I don't really appreciate that, again, because it's not with a purpose. I do love atmospheric books, you know, they can be slow as long as the world building and the characters are very interesting. But in the second book I thought the characters were even worse because like they sort of pretend that there's this history and that there are these relationships between characters, but all the characters are so one-dimensional and they didn't really know each other all that long. Because in the second book we're only at Halloween on Stevie's first year at Ellingham Academies. Like she has been at this school for 2 months, but the book acts like she has been there for a really long time and that like her school life is something that has been going on for a while and that she has like friendships with all these characters, but we've barely seen any establishing of these friendships. So, you know, don't pretend like these people are friends, but you don't build it up. And that annoyed me so much. And then also there's a certain politician character that I just didn't really like the inclusion of. So Stevie really hates this politician and she says that he's like the devil and the worst man ever. But the thing is, we never get to hear what he actually does that's so evil or so bad. I get the vibe that like this politician is a stand-in for Trump. But you cannot just expect your readers to think that, you know, you have to build it up. What does this man do that is so bad? Because I cannot get on board with Stevie like hating this character so much without any context and without like the book telling me what he does that is so bad, because I'm like, yeah, so she hates this character, why? It just really annoyed me. So yeah, not a big fan of this series overall, I guess. And I also don't know if I want to read the third book. I don't think so, because at the end of the second book I was a bit curious to like for the final answers of the mystery, but now I'm not so sure, because like with both these books the best parts or like all the answers came in the final 10 pages. So if I just read like the final 10 pages of the third book, I think I have the whole picture of what like actually happened with the kidnappings and everything. So yeah, The Vanishing Star was a 2 out of 5 stars for me. Yeah, definitely one of the bigger disappointments I've read so far this year. Then my next book was Spark by Alice Broadway, a book that had been on my TBR for like more than a year. This is the second book in the Ink series, and this series is about a girl named Leora, and she lives in this town where everyone has everything that they do and they achieve marked or like tattooed on their skin. And all the people without markings are called the blanks, and they are banished from her town, and that's sort of the premise of this book. I really enjoyed the first book, Ink. That was one of my pleasant surprises of last year. So I really wanted to continue with this series, but somehow it took me such a long time to pick it up. And I finally did. And Spark, yeah, again, I definitely enjoyed it. I don't think it's as good as Ink. I think Ink is still better, but Spark was still a very enjoyable book. The thing is, like, this series is such a sort of basic old school YA series, and when I read it, I realized how much I miss those kind of series every once in a while. You know, it's your basic main character of a special girl, you know, who's different from other girls and has something special about her. It's this premise of people who are marked and people who are blank, and I just really love that. You know, it's not big, it's not a literary masterpiece, it's not very dramatic or anything. It's just a simple YA series, and it really, I don't know, it really resonates with me. What I also like is that stories play a big part in this series, and often we get some of these stories and it's very fairy tale like, so I love that. I love that atmosphere. Do I think that this is like a great series that everyone should read? Not necessarily, but if you're just in the mood for a simple, you know, not too big YA series, just something fun to read, then I would definitely recommend it to you. I enjoyed Spark, it was fine. Of course it isn't perfect, but I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Then my next read was The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, and this was again an audiobook listen. This book tells the story of a woman named Rowan, and she goes to Scotland for the position of a nanny, like an in-house living nanny. And at the beginning of the book we are told that things are going to end very badly for her, that she's going to end up in jail accused of the murder of a little girl, and she claims she is innocent. So this was a thriller, and even though I'm not like a Halloween person that would read a lot of spooky books in October, I still thought it would be fitting to read at least one thriller. And yeah, overall I really enjoyed this one. This book has a very creepy build-up, and that's something I really liked about it. It is, I wouldn't necessarily say spooky, it's very creepy. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. I do like the atmosphere of, you know, it's going to end badly, but you don't know exactly what is going to happen. Who is this Rowan? Why is she there? how was she involved in the death of this little girl. I especially love the build up to it. I love how in like little steps the book gets creepier and creepier. I thought it was very well written. And then you have the ending. Like a lot of people were saying that the ending was like mind-blowing and so amazing, and like they had never expected it, because people said that I was expecting a lot. And maybe that's why I was a little bit disappointed by the ending, because I was like expecting the weirdest things, and those did not really come true. It is still, I think, quite a good ending, and there are twists and turns. But I wasn't blown off my feet, if that makes any sense. Still, I think The Turn of the Key is a very enjoyable book. Yeah, definitely one that I would recommend. I also really loved the audiobook. I thought it was very well narrated, and I just flew through it because it was so easy to listen to. And yeah, in the end I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Then the next book that I read is a very exciting new release, and it is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So for this one, I actually have an entire separate spoiler-free review video, because I have a lot of thoughts on it and I loved it very much, so I thought it deserved its own video. So I'll leave a link to that like up here, down below, everywhere if you want to watch it. The short summary of that is, I really loved Ninth House. I thought the world building was amazing. It has a very dark atmosphere. It does deal with some difficult and very serious topics. It's not suitable for everyone, I think, because like the gothic atmosphere really has to be your thing. But I personally love it. I thought the writing was amazing, and that's sort of like my thoughts in a nutshell. But if you want to hear more about it, watch that separate video. And then, because somehow apparently I don't read anything else apart from these books, and I just cannot stop rereading them, I read 4 Harry Potter books. I read Goblet of Fire, oh no, I'm doing it the wrong way. I read Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince, and Deathly Hallows. I am true Harry Potter trash at this point. Yeah, what else do you expect with me? It's like, these are like the 4 big ones. I listened to them all on audiobook. And I actually already have the reviews of Goblet of Fire and Order of the Phoenix online now. And ooh, they keep falling apart, oh help. But yeah, I have those online. Those do have spoilers, but you can watch them. Again, links down below in the description box. And I will make video reviews of Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows, and those will be online before the year's over. That's my goal. And yeah, apart from that, you know that I love Harry Potter. It's all 5 out of 5 stars. And I've like talked about it so many times that I don't think I need to go in detail right now. So watch the reviews if you want to, and yeah. I do think that I need to stop rereading Harry Potter after this one, at least for a year or so, but yeah. And then the final book that I read this month was Winter Girls by Laurie Haas Anderson. This is the story of a young girl named Leah who suffers from an eating disorder. She and her best friend Cassie had this sort of bet going on who could be the thinnest, and then Cassie dies and Leah is left behind alone, still very much struggling with her eating disorder. So this is one that I had on my shelves for like so long, and I finally picked it up. Yeah, Winter Girls, overall I did enjoy it. It was a book that I like literally flew through. I read it in like 1.5 days, or a day and a half, that sounds better. But yeah, I thought it was good. It is of course like a very serious book. It's about a very serious topic. But overall I also thought that it was a bit boring and a bit sort of, I don't know, bland. I think there could have been a bit more to it. But of course I don't suffer from an eating disorder. I don't have any experience with it, so I cannot say that this book is bad, because of course it can be very helpful for other people. I don't know how accurate it is. I don't know how relatable it is. Just for me as a person without an eating disorder, I found it interesting, but it's not the best book about people suffering from eating disorders that I've read. I've read other ones that I just prefer, like What I Lost, and Paperweight. I liked those ones more. This one, it was good, but it was just missing a certain something. I also thought the ending lacked closure. It could have been a bit more, you know? But still enjoyable, like not enjoyable, but still good, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So that was it for my October reading wrap up. Again, an amazing reading month, and I'm so happy with it. I hope the next month, like I hope November is also going to be an amazing reading month. November is like one of my favorite months of the year, because my booktube anniversary is coming up, my birthday is coming up. There's just going to be a lot of fun stuff this month. I also have a November TBR video. I'm going to participate in multiple readathons, so very excited about that. And yeah, I guess this was it for this video. If you like this video, please go subscribe, or you know, maybe give it a thumbs up if you want to, but I would really appreciate it. Please let me know down below in the comments what your favorite book was that you've read this month. And then hopefully I will see you again very soon in my next video. Bye!